There are certain moments in our life we never forget. I like to refer to them as BW, short for black and white. These are moments that we carry imprinted in our minds. They stay in our hearts, and our soul comes alive every time we remember them. Scientists call this residual energy signature. These moments can be moments when you were doing something you love or when you were at your best. They can be moments when you experience something far bigger than yourself. It could be a childhood story, it could be a time when you were doing something you love, or a time when you gave to make someone feel seen. And I am sure as I am talking, you are recording some of these memories. I'd like to share with you the most important VW moments. The first is the story of Bahija. I know people like you, the small voice called out to me. I stopped and I raised my head to meet a beautiful set of brown eyes. Even though I was 10 inches taller and we were 6 inches apart, I could feel the weight of her stare weighing me down. People like me? I asked, as I took a step closer to her. And Bahija started to tell me a tale of pain and heartbreak, of people like me who would come from the city to her community to teach and preach about equity and equality. People like me who would come to her community to make promises unfulfilled and leave with a gallery full of photos and videos, never to be heard from again. As Bahija spoke, I looked close at her, and she reminded me so much of my neighbor in the city, Bilkisu. Bilkisu had just left the United Kingdom for her A-levels, a space enthusiast, and as she left, she bragged to me that she will soon plant the Nigerian flag on space and take some plantain chips for flavor. And so my next question to Bahija was, how old are you? And her answer broke my heart even further. 19, she said. You see, Bahija is from a household which is 1 in 3 in her community of Shagari that live below the poverty line. And girls like Bahija are married off at the tender age of 13 because their families cannot provide for them anymore. Bahija was married off to Hamisu, a farmer, and he had promised that he would contribute and ensure that she continued her education at least to O-levels. Alas, tragedy broke, and the insurgency came and took the only source of livelihood he had. His farm was burnt down. Hamisu had no idea how he would cater for his 7 children, 4 from a previous marriage and 3 Bahija. My next question to Bahija was, what do you think you can do to change the situation? I want to learn, she said excitedly. I want you to teach me how I can make some money to help my family. As I made a promise, not to Bahija, but to myself, that I would not be one of those people who left to be heard. That story I want to share with you saved my life. It's just a mere muscle pull, the doctor said to me dismissively. Even though I knew the pain I was feeling that had made me have sleepless nights and made it impossible for me to wear a shoe, even walking an inconvenience had to be more than a muscle pull. But he was the physician in training after all. And from what I had overheard between his numerous conversations, he was a recent graduate of a private university, one of the best in the country, by Nigerian standard. And so I reluctantly collected the slip. As I walked away to the pharmacy, I heard a voice call. I didn't really think much of it until I felt a pat on my shoulder. And as I turned, I faced another doctor wearing a white lab coat. As if on cue to answer my puzzled look, he introduced himself and hurriedly ushered me into the consulting room directly opposite the one I had just exited. "Boss, this is the lady I spoke to you about. Can you please take a second look and confirm my suspicion?" I overheard him say to the nicely dressed older lady who was now towering over me. 20 minutes later, I found myself in the radiology department with Dr. Adejo holding an inquiry form with the word "urgent" boldly written on it. I heard him speaking in hushed tones to the nurses and doctors. After an extensive afternoon of scans, inquiries, and very uncomfortable movements, I left the hospital that day with a caution and his phone number. He explained in detail the kind of symptoms I should watch out for, and he told me that immediately I felt them, I should make sure I come to the emergency room and ask the nurse on duty to call him as soon as possible, no matter the time of. Just as he predicted, less than 48 hours later, I was wheeled into the emergency room, hanging on for my dear life. My lung was being threatened by a thumb-sized blood clot that had found its way by breaking away from my swollen leg into my lungs. Now, it is easy to assume that this was sheer luck, or even to start thinking of placing blame on the first doctor who missed the opportunity of something more. But just like Bahija's story, my story with Dr. Adejo shows and clearly reminds us of what is possible when we empathize. When we slow down, look closer to assess a situation, and deeper. And that is something that is very hard to do in a fast-paced and highly connected environment like ours, especially when one story is a mere fraction of a rather complex and intricately designed story. But today, I want to challenge you to be that one person that slows down. Slow down to go further, like Fatih Abubakar, who chose to capture images that would tell the story of people. Slow down to go further, like Zanna Mustafa, who chose to give the children a hope for a brighter future. Slow down to go further, like Fatima and Muhammad, who are leading an amazing team of volunteers today, giving us the platform to be able to tell the story of our Yoruba Fatu, to remind us of the true essence of the home of peace that we all know and love. Why should you slow down? I believe we all want to leave a legacy that will be an imprint in the sands of time. And more often than not, what people will remember is that you saw them. They will remember that you felt their pain and gave them hope in exchange. That is what I want my legacy to be. After all, as the popular saying goes, does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? My dear audience, ladies and gentlemen, you are the hope of a country that I like to call a sleeping giant. I want you to tell yourself this morning that I will slow down. And look to your neighbor and say, it is time to go further. Take a step to rebuild with your community, but let empathy be your signature. Thank you.